As conflict rose among the globe and practically all of Europe was at war with or against Nazis, people had a tendency to forget the other side. On the lands of Eastern Asia, there was another imperial force rising amongst a mud of chaos.
It was the Empire of Japan. However, to this day, some remain eternally unforgiving for this empire's doing in the past. Why is Korea still in deep hatred of Japan? What happened during these periods? Volume 1 of our documentary is to explore to what extent did the Japanese Empire affect Korean society through World War II, and how did it reflect the larger ambitions of the Japanese Empire? Let's run the tape back to 1868. Japan was undergoing a chaotic period with the resignation of Tokugawa Yoshinobu. January 1868 marked the start of what was called the Meiji Restoration, as it brought along the key to the rise of the Japanese Empire: modernization and westernization. The restoration of Meiji was powered by constitutionalism, industrialization, and a well-trained military, essential for national unity and security.
This all led to the First Sino-Japanese War out of competition for Korea. The Korean peninsula had long been China's most important client state, but its location and abundant natural resources of coal and iron piqued Japan's interest. In 1884, Kim Ok-kyun, a pro-Japanese Korean leader, was assassinated in Shanghai by Yuan Shikai agents, causing great outrage. August 1st, 1894, was the official declaration of war. The Japanese had been better equipped and prepared, and they had modernized more successfully than the Chinese. Japanese forces came to victory both on land and at sea with great speed and efficiency. By the terms of the Treaty of Shimonoseki, China was obliged to recognize the independence of Korea, to cede Taiwan, the Pescadores Islands, and the Liaodong Peninsula to Japan. Japan then went on and defeated Russia in the 1904-1905 Russo-Japanese War, making it the superior regional power. It then moved quickly to fully absorb Korea.
There were several ideologies behind the desire to conquer Korea and quite possibly the rest of the world. These included the divine missionary philosophy, ideas similar to the white man's burden, an ambition for a powerful position within political standings, and a determination to expand their influence over the Asian continent and gain recognition. Japan had approached colonialism in several ways. Unlike the Anglo-Saxons who have utilized guns, germs, and steel to establish power over the African continent, Japan focused on the cultural assimilation of Korea.
Cultural cleansing, as UNESCO defined, it is a, quote, intentional strategy that seeks to destroy cultural diversity through the deliberate targeting of individuals identified on the basis of their cultural, ethnic, or religious background. Japan did just that. During their colonial ruling, the Korean language was officially illegal to be spoken of, and Japanese language in Japan started an expansion into Korea with films and propaganda encouraging manual labor for the Japanese emperor. They went as far as not only burning and banning literary texts that are not approved by their empire, but also deforesting lands to modify and remove the geometric structure of Korea they knew of. Along with the partial or whole demolition of hundreds of ancient structures, including the royal palaces, Gyeongbokgung and Deoksugung, tens of thousands of cultural artifacts were pilfered and transported to Japan. With the help of promoting language, religion, and education as means of assimilating Koreans, shrines built by Shinto priests for Japanese families later became centers of forced worship. This was a strategy of the empire to delete their national identity and feed their new colonial citizens Japanese culture, hence allowing them to adapt and transform into a refined identity.
Fast forward to 1939, about 5.4 million Koreans were enlisted by Japan to aid in its war effort until World War II. Many were forcibly removed from their homes and forced to labor in often appalling conditions. Set from other cruel doings, Japan notoriously forced girls and women as young as 12 into sexual slavery during World War II. Comfort women was what they were called. Women and girls were dehumanized and deprived of their agency, treated as public restrooms. Despite the fact that each victim's story was different, they all had one thing in common. They had all been subjected to extreme and violent physical, sexual, and psychological abuse that has lasting impacts onto their lives today. Few women survived, and even fewer had made it to today to shine a light on their personal stories, exposing the truths of what the Japanese Empire had done to this generation of Korean women.
These acts, including but not limited to cultural cleansing and the comfort woman exploitation, directly reflected the greater ambition of Japan. As explained earlier, they had a strong belief in the divine will of God that destined themselves to conquer Asia. This was heavily influenced by their desire to be recognized between the European powers and be treated like one of them.
They were convinced that by having total control of Asia through different strategies, not limited to violence, they could rise as another imperial force. With the stage set perfectly since their victory in the Russo-Japanese War, they had to maintain control over the colonies such as Korea. Modern Korea has had major influence from Imperial Japan, whether or not it was positive or negative, and there are still constant debates on whether or not the acts they have committed have generally aided or damaged the economic, cultural, and social growth of Korea. Japan's prior advancements in industrialization stimulated the economy and technological advancements of Korea during the time. Under the rule of Japan, Korea overthrew the political structure of a monarchy and advanced onto adapting a democratic political habit that has somewhat remained a foundation for the country's development today.
However, older generations remember imperial periods as gruesome nightmares that still haunt them to this day. Social issues between them that still remains has led the country into political problems that include Japan banning the trades from Korea, debate on the possession of island Dokdo Takeshima, and the descended grudge the minority of younger generations carry.